this meeting to order. Oh, okay. I
Well,
will
that
call
was
this.
interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Calls meeting to order. I don't have a flag on me here. I'm not in my office. Does anyone have a flag?
Let me see if I've got one.
Sorry about that. Other than in the garage, but it would take me a minute to get up there.
I can run downstairs and get one.
Oh, geez. I always have my little flags in the office here. Well, everybody can face east, right? And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. There we go. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right.
I was trying real hard to get it up there.
Meredith coming through in a pinch. All right. Do we have, well, we can do our kind of introductions while we do our roll call for the meeting minutes, right? So things have been going. So we do have meeting minutes from the April 1st meeting. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 1st.
All right.
Second it.
We have a second? Sorry.
I second it.
Oh, thank you. And a second. And then I guess, can we do a roll call?
Yes, just one moment. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Thanks. Well, there's actually, I guess we have names here for everybody this time, but.
I know that most are not here, but I'll just go down the list. Jeff Benson, Jan Babst, Bill Emerson,
Yes.
Kevin Brightsky, Dinah Doombries, Robert LeMay, Robert Forster, Janet Beck, and let's see, Jennifer Gonzala.
Ooh, yes.
Thank you. Tim Kingsland,
Here. Yes.
Sarah Nimitz, Wendy Miss, George Topple.
Yes.
Thank you. Kay Nelson, Lori Cagle.
Yes.
Thank you. Debbie Backus, Susan Mahalo, Reggie Corthals, and that concludes roll call.
All right. Thank you very much. The the minutes are approved. We can move on to our public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Anyone in the public who's not a member would like to speak? All right. Hearing none, we'll close the public comments and move on to Joe.
Right. Thank you.
All right.
Start sharing my screen here.
All right.
All right. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, very good. And I've got some weird flashing going on mine. I hope that isn't occurring for anybody else. Hopefully the slides work here. All right, so thank you everybody for joining today. Beautiful weather outside. Glad you could be inside with us for a little bit. Today's presentation is a project that NERC took up a couple of years ago, and originally it started out as identifying wetland restoration opportunities within the Deep River Portage Burns Waterway watershed, but the work actually expanded a little bit, so got a lot of bang for the buck out of this project. Okay, so for those that aren't familiar with the Deep River watershed, It is located in northern Lake and Porter counties and drains to Lake Michigan, making it a coastal watershed. Some of the major tributaries or water bodies within the watershed include a Main Beaver Dam Ditch, Turkey Creek, Deep River, Lake George, and the Little Calumet River to the north, which is what drains into Lake Michigan. I kind of already mentioned that includes Lake and Porter counties, but there are several municipalities located within the drainage area, including Hobart, Maryville, Cedar Lake, Crown Point, Gary, Griffith, Lake Station, New Chicago, St. John, Cherville, Winfield, Portage, Lakes of the Four Seasons, and Ogden Dunes. So it's a pretty large drainage area, about 180 square miles. It's actually Northwest Indiana's largest watershed or drainage area going into Lake Michigan. The dominant land covers within the watershed, it is primarily human uses. So about 45% of the watershed is classified as developed lands, and another 28% is agricultural lands. In 2016, a watershed management plan, which was facilitated by NERC, was approved by the Indiana Department of Environmental Management and US EPA. Okay, so a little bit more information, project support and partners. This project was funded in part by the Indiana Lake Michigan Coastal Program with funding through NOAA, and also through some other local grants from the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation and ArcelorMittal Foundation. That funding came to NERC through the Calumet Land Conservation Partnership. And our other project partner was the Porter County Soil and Water Conservation District. They are the ones that ran the model for identifying wetland locations, potential restoration opportunities, and some other agricultural conservation practices. All right. So what slide is everybody seeing? I've got multiple slides coming up here. I got a lag. Okay, this looks like it's clear now. All right, so the tool that was used is called the Agricultural Conservation Planning Framework. It is a GIS-based planning tool developed by the US Department of Agriculture. What the tool does is it utilizes spatial data to identify locations where landscape attributes are favorable or conducive to implementing farmland conservation practices. What it also helps do is prioritize locations that are susceptible to runoff and erosion from farmland. The tool itself emphasizes soil conservation as the foundation to agricultural watershed management. And the pyramid that you can see on the right of the slide, you can see that soil health is that foundation. So in soil health, we're hoping to see things like restricted tillage or conservation tillage practices, nutrient management, crop rotations, and the like. So it all starts with the foundation of healthy soils and then builds up from there. Controlled drainage, grass waterways and filter strips through water control, control water below fields. This includes things like wetlands, and ultimately, before water or runoff gets to the river, riparian management. But soil health is where it all begins. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and do now is just give a brief overview of some of the modeling results. I really don't want to get into the details of the logistics of running the model itself. That's really not the intent. But originally I mentioned that the project started off as looking at wetland restoration opportunities within the Deep River watershed, and the figure on the right shows the outline of Deep River and its waterways. And you'll see a couple of colored figures within there, like purples, greens, and blues. Those are wetland restoration opportunities within the watershed. Overall, there were, for nutrient removal wetlands, which is really supposed to be implemented within a working landscape of farm field to help remove, like the title says, nutrients from the runoff that potentially could be coming from those fields. 42 potential nutrient removal wetlands covering nearly 209 acres were identified. In addition to that, that was just for the wetland pools themselves. The model also produces buffers around those fields following Natural Resource Conservation Service and our CS spec, 382 acres of a buffer around those water bodies. A total capacity in part is 580, at least 580 acre feet. Why I say at least is because one of the outputs I just noticed here a few days ago did not give me the storage for one of the nutrient wetland types. So it's greater than 580 acre feet. So what is an acre feet? So if you had an acre of land, cover it with a foot of water, you know, that's quite a bit of storage. Another way to visualize it is about, imagine a football field with about a foot of water on top of it. So a lot of storage potential with the nutrient removal wetlands. In addition to those wetlands, other wetland opportunities were identified, being depressions. Within these depressions, what the model is looking for is kind of those little shallow basins within the landscape. But within those little shallow basins, it's looking for soils that would have developed under wetland conditions or hydrologic soils. So it identified 325 potential wetlands covering nearly 1,500 acres with capacity to store nearly 4,000 acre feet of water. So almost 4,000 football fields covered in a foot of water. So a lot of potential storage there, in addition to the habitat. And finally, it also identified what are known as water and sediment control basins, or WASCOBs. 27 potential WASCOBs detaining runoff from 183 acres with the capacity to store nearly 33 acre feet of water. So a lot of potential within the watershed. Come on, stop lagging. All right, so nutrient removal wetlands, a little bit more information on those. Where are they used? Areas needing treatment for runoff from agricultural and livestock facilities, or for improving water quality. You can see on the figure to the right, this is just an example, kind of a close-up of a couple of farm fields within the watershed. And the dark blue would be the pool area or the wetland. The light green would be the buffer surrounding that wetland. And you can see those kind of like light blue lines. Those are the flow paths as water moves across the landscape and is collected within that flow path or that small channel. And that directs the flow into the nutrient removal wetland, thereby treating runoff coming from the farm field before being released into a flow path or tributaries located downstream.
Hey, Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. The one I'm seeing is all purple. I'm not sure if we're on the same.
Okay, and we've got multiple slides going on. This thing is advancing on its own. Sorry about that.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so there's the nutrient removal wetlands. Okay, depression. So this is the purple one. Sorry about that, everybody. Technical difficulties on my end, running dual monitors here. So depressions, as I kind of mentioned, are like natural wetland sites where you have these hydric soils or soils that have developed under naturally wetland conditions prior to them being drained. So these are identifying wetland restoration opportunities. Nutrient removal wetlands aren't necessarily constructed where wetlands once existed. So they are a little bit more man-made. So a lot of potential in here. And this one is kind of interesting. The figure on the right-hand side, this is an area kind of where Deep River is emptying in towards the Little Calumet West Branch. The roadway system you see on there is 8094 and I-65 flowing south. So there is some current work happening in that area right now with a number of restoration partners. So pretty exciting to see that pop up in the map. All right, water and sediment control basins, where are they used? Where the topography is generally irregular and you get gully erosion starting to occur. Figure on the right just shows an example of a farm field where there's a potential to install a couple of these water and sediment control basins. In this case, it was calling for the inclusion of 2 of them at kind of like a headwater region for this flow path. So the model was probably picking up some gully erosion occurring in that area and trying to kind of capture that. The Wascob, that orange or kind of brownish line, is almost like an embankment. I won't say it's a dam, but it is kind of functions in a way like that, where it's a low elevation increase and ties into the landscape, which backs up water for no more than a 24-hour period before slowly draining through the engineered drainage structure into the receiving water body below. So it helps store water, slows it down before getting in downstream, but is also collecting sediment and nutrients that would otherwise wash down through that conveyance. All right, runoff control opportunities. This is some of the extra bang for the buck that we got running the model. It identified grassed waterways, over 1,000 potential grassed waterways within the watershed, identified 337 contour buffer strips. And as I already mentioned, WASCOBs, it actually identified a total of 27 of the water sediment control basins within the watershed. So grassed waterways, where are they used? Areas where added water conveyance capacity and vegetation protection are needed to prevent erosion. You probably, if you've driven across like a farm field during the fallow season after they've picked the corn or harvested the soybeans, you might see these kind of like grass strips running through, almost kind of like a river through the landscape. Most often those are grassed waterways. So they're helping to convey runoff, but they're also helping filtering off sediment nutrients that would otherwise be heading down to a receiving water body below. Sorry, having technical difficulties here still. Contour buffer strips. Image on the right shows kind of like these hot pink lines, squiggly lines laying across a farm field. Kind of looks similar, I guess, in a way to the grassed waterways, but these lie on the contours themselves. So they are perpendicular to the water flow path. And what they do is they help slow down runoff and capture sediment and nutrients before reaching a waterway. One of the advantages of using the agricultural conservation planning framework is the model also helps prioritize potential opportunities within the watershed. And what the figure on the right is showing is some runoff risk associated with farm fields within the watershed. And they are classified from very high risk to low risk. So with limited funding and resources that might be available, you know, this helps kind of focus in where you should consider expending your efforts. So for very high risk, there is 82 fields totaling a little over 1,000 acres within the watershed, and a high risk, almost 300 fields totaling a little over 5,000 acres within the watershed. So, you know, with limited resources, as I kind of mentioned, these probably would be the areas that you would want to focus on within the watershed. This figure here just shows an example of like prioritizing work that might be done within a farm field if we were to target a very high runoff risk, an example. And the conservation opportunities that the model identified in here were grassed waterways, contour buffer strips, potential for nutrient removal wetland, and wetland restoration. The thing is within this, you have to understand is all these measures are voluntary in nature, whether the farmer wants to implement these practices in there. The other thing too is that a number of these practices don't necessarily have an economic return for the farmer to go ahead and implement. So in many cases, these practices are taking farmland out of production. So it is definitely kind of like a balancing act. I heard it described, implementing some of these practices or this tool in general is like, you know, for the farmers that are already doing like cover crops on their fields, this is kind of like the next step, or like a buffet option. You know, you've already got some of those that are familiar with conservation practices on the landscape, some of the basic ones, but this is kind of like the next level up potential for implementation. Also, to help prioritize restoration opportunities within the watershed, there is a riparian assessment as part of the model. And this one was looking at high risk runoff delivery for riparian areas. And just kind of similar to the one I showed before for runoff for fields, this one is looking at stream segments and the riparian zone that transition from the aquatic world to the upland world adjacent to the stream. 159 stream reaches totaling 50 miles were identified as a high runoff delivery risk within the watershed. Another 274 stream reaches were identified totaling 85 miles along the stream. So this kind of once again helps prioritize where you might spend most of your limited resources in implementing best management practices. The slide here, this is showing a riparian zone that had a very high runoff risk, and some of the conservation opportunities that were identified by the Agricultural Conservation Planning Framework included grassed waterways, contour buffer strips, nutrient removal wetlands, and wetland restoration in along this riparian zone. One other really neat function, but there's no way for me to kind of show it visually on the figures, is that this high runoff risk delivery system, it has an output of recommended buffer widths, and also what types of riparian buffers that can be installed to address some of those issues. Like you can do specific plantings like a multi-species planting buffer to control water uptake and nutrient sediment delivery. And in some cases where none of these other practices apply, maybe it helps identify areas where stream banks stabilization is the best route or avenue to consider. So next steps for NERC and myself on this is to incorporate this information into an update of the Deep River Watershed Management Plan. We're coming up on 5 years since that plan has been completed, so it is in the early stages of being due for an update. I need to meet with the soil and water conservation districts, and in particular their board members, and also with the NRCS. We do have a new district conservationist within Lake and Porter counties that I have not had the opportunity to meet as of yet because of COVID. And also need to meet some more with the land conservation partners to discuss some of the findings and potential opportunities. For example, the figure on the right shows, this is the only parcel I'm going to identify specifically. This is Deep River Water Park, US 30 to the north. You can see the water park next to it. But within that, I mean, this happens for a number of our managed lands here in Northwest Indiana, is some of them do have active or working lands, agricultural practices within their boundaries. So this might be an opportunity for the county if they would want to consider, if they want to keep farming it for that revenue source, is there some conservation practices that can be installed on that farmland? You know, some of it would be a take, like if they were to restore some of that wetland in the pink, but it also has a water sediment control basin identified in there, and some of the contour buffer strips. So that would help prevent sediment and nutrients getting to Deep River itself, but also provide some habitat opportunities within their boundaries as well. Okay, so that is all I have. I guess if there's time, I would be more than happy to take some questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, a lot there.
is-
Sorry.
That is really cool. I'm wondering how, especially in Lake County, the Kankakee watershed has most of our agricultural and areas, and where a lot of that stuff might apply even more. I'm wondering if like a potential for maybe a meeting with Lake County Soil and Water and kind of to look at some of this stuff, how it might apply down there as well.
Yeah, I think I believe that the person doing this work is Jared. He's over in Porter County, but he's got the expertise of running it. And I believe he has started looking down in the Kankakee. I'm not sure how much of it has gone over onto the Lake County side, but I am aware that he has started running the model down in some of the Kankakee basins. So
That's really cool. And I can help with like the Deep River, like with park or other Parks Department properties, help with that if I can. That's really great, Joe.
Yep. And that's kind of why, in part, why I cherry picked some of the figures I was showing, because I was highlighting some of the like regulated drains and so forth for like buffer designs and stuff like that. So I did do a little bit of cherry picking. My screen is frozen on my end. Am I still sharing?
No.
Okay, very good, because I'm locked up here. I can't turn it over otherwise. All right, cool. Thank you all.
Joe, real
Joe.
quick, there was a question in the chat about planting trees. Is that ever considered? Trees can sequester carbon for a twofer? I mean, there was probably from one of your slides a few minutes ago, but.
No, okay, all right. So can trees be planted in there? A number of the NRCS specs for the buffers and the like can be modified based on what the landowner would like to get out of the project. So yes, you can have riparian zone plantings that incorporate trees. Sometimes that is definitely going to be a conflict, especially along a regulated drain where they need to get in and do the maintenance now and then. Those are instances where you can use some of the deep-rooted natural vegetation, which also has the benefit of sequestering carbon. So it's not just trees that are going to help sequester that, but a number of the deep-rooted like native grasses and vegetation will help sequester carbon if that's one of your goals. But also not just sequestering carbon, there is the wildlife, and a particular emphasis within our NRCS and soil and water is pollinator cover. So those factors can be incorporated in many cases into some of those conservation practices.
Joe, have you talked to Purdue Extension, Lake County or Porter County to maybe introduce them to the tool if they haven't seen it, to have maybe start bringing the ag community into the discussion more?
Not as of yet. COVID was like a big anchor on this project. Things have started taking a little bit longer. This is definitely one I'd like to sit down. I mean, I can do it like digitally, but this is definitely one I'd like to sit down and have the conversations, because I mean, even if you were to go to the Agricultural Conservation Planning Framework website, I had the web address included with the slides. I'll make sure to make those available to anybody that's interested in exploring a little bit more. This tool isn't meant to be in the citing, and the practices aren't meant to be thou shalt install said wetland here on your property. These are meant to be talking points. And in some cases, that information might not even be shared with the landowner. It's just intended for planning purposes within NRCS and soil and water. And in some cases, they use the output maps to share with the landowner. It kind of just depends on how the partners want to approach it. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Joe? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was great. Moving on, Kathy's with us, I see. Moving on, we have kind of a project and program update on the greenhouse gas inventory. How are you doing, Kathy?
Good. Sorry, the holiday week threw me off, but I have such a great team. Glad everything went fine so far. You don't even need me.
Just asking, just wondering about the greenhouse gas inventory, how things are going.
Yeah, I think is Kathy Sipple on? I don't see her. I thought we were going to ask one of the interns to speak to where things were at, but I actually don't see one. We've got all the interns have NERPC email addresses. Or Joe, do you want to speak to it? Because you guys had the team meeting.
Yeah, so on the NERPC side of things, I guess, aside from like the larger ICLEI and downstate meetings and so forth, we have been holding or hosting weekly, we just started weekly check-ins with the team. I think right now, just to be kind of like upfront, is that a number of us feel like we're drinking from a fire hose. There's a lot of information coming at us. But that being said, is the support structure is there from ICLEI and the rest of the partners that we can kind of start picking away at the project and not really taking too big of a bite. The first step and the meeting that we just had as a larger group was looking at the energy sector. So I know some of our municipal and county partners have been on some of those calls. So we're just kind of just getting started with it. June 1st was supposed to be kind of what we targeted as the official start date for the NERPC interns. They've been going through the training videos and discussion groups, and we've been having those, just started the weekly meetings. So we're just kind of getting started and our feet under us. We're making progress. So yeah, we've got our emails now and our NERPC phone numbers as well. So yeah.
We've kind of assigned the 6 interns into pairs with different communities. I think Haru met with Valparaiso, and I think they have something scheduled with Chesterton. Jennifer on coming up. We're still struggling a little bit with the counties to get official point of contact from them. We're reaching out to in Porter County, I think we have solid waste management district, so we're going to reach out to those in Lake and LaPorte, especially for the solid waste information. Maybe Bill, when we get into water stuff, you could be our point of contact for Lake County.
Sure, absolutely.
But we're going to work on those, and then so the interns are going to start contacting their community contacts to schedule meetings with them, just to kind of get to know your community. So they should be reaching out to you if you're one of those people.
Excellent point. Thanks on that, Kathy. The other thing too is some of the information, they're not going to have to pull it all from the communities or the counties, is that there are some resources that are available online that the interns will be able to pull from. But ultimately, I mean, the success of the project is going to come down to the participation, those that sign on to the project, because without that, the interns are going to struggle, and we're going to struggle to get the final product to everybody. So yep, definitely encouraged to continue participation in it for those that signed on.
All right, thank you. Anything new on green fleets?
Yes. Hi,
Hey,
Bill.
Lori. Hi.
Hello. I have a lengthy report, but I will speed through it. We have been fortunate to be very busy, and really just want to be able to highlight all of the different things that fall under our partnership with NERC to give folks a sense of what we've been working on. So this Tuesday, the South Shore Clean Cities submitted 9 grant requests for the third round of the on-road and non-road grants for the VW program under the Greenfleet program. These were to replace 55 diesel vehicles with alternative fuel or electric vehicles. So the total request was more than 5.4 million for projects totaling more than 17.1 million. So fingers crossed. Bulkmatic Transportation, City of Hobart, City of Portage, Homewood Disposal in Gary, Lake Central School Corp, Michigan City Area Schools, School City of Hammond, School Town of Munster, and then Scrap Metal Services at the port were all involved. So we'll be hearing later this summer from the committee on whether or not those were approved. Also, at their most recent meeting in May, the VW committee met and voted on the award for the statewide DC fast charging network. South Shore Clean Cities was one of 4 finalists. We came in second to the Indiana Utility Group. However, IDEM did recommend that South Shore Clean Cities be granted funding to manage outreach and education for the statewide fast charging program because we were the only applicant to include outreach and education in our proposal. The VW committee and IDEM are reviewing options for moving forward with that. There's some kind of technical aspects that they're trying to work out. So this is not final, but they will be coming back to the full committee with some more details on how to proceed a little later this summer. Also some exciting news. We are working with NERC to develop a Northwest Indiana Clean Air website. This will serve as a clearinghouse for information on all clean air programs in the region that are supported by NERC. So things like the Green Fleet program, Partners for Clean Air, the Region Man campaign, which I'll talk about in a second. We did receive bids and we've selected a contractor. We're in the process of signing a contract. Anticipate work to start soon on this, very soon, and for the site to be live by early this fall. So this is a project that we're managing and are really looking forward to seeing that come to fruition. The Region Man billboards are up again as of June 1st across the region for the air quality action season. You may recall we initiated this project last year following work by a group of Purdue students that we worked with. And you'll see those when you're out and about with tips promoting actions that individuals can take to reduce emissions during the air quality action season. If I can share my screen, I can show you one of them. Oh, it's not happening. That's okay.
Lori, I can let me just
thank you, ma'am.
quickly do that for you.
It is called Region Man, kind of like Florida Man, like the headlines. It's kind of our campaign, but you might recall last year we did make sure that it is diverse. So we have Region Woman, Region Child. We have folks of different ethnicities as well. So we're pretty excited to be able to share that. Let me show you one. Here's Region Woman. There she is. So just kind of one of the billboards there. They all kind of have this same kind of retro look and retro theme to them. So we're excited to get those going. And let me know when you're seeing them out and about, because I get excited when I'm driving and I see them. Another project, the no spill gas cans that our solid waste districts have. We worked to secure the bids for those for the year for NERC. 460 cans were delivered to LaPorte County solid waste district last month. And then today, Porter County Recycling is getting 500. These are the ones where residents can exchange their old gas cans for the no spill gas cans to reduce emissions throughout the year free of charge at the household hazardous waste collections. So we're excited to help that way. With Partners for Clean Air, we also work with them. As you know, they were recently featured in a case study by IU Environmental Resilience. We worked with them on that, as well as with Charles Breitenfeld at IDEM to get that messaging out. I've sent the link to that to Flora so she can share that with everybody in your minutes. There's also 2 Partners for Clean Air days coming up at South Shore Railcats, 2 Sunday games, August 8th and 29th, and those tickets are available on the Railcats website. We'd love to see you there. We'll have a bunch of giveaways and all sorts of fun stuff and lots of good tips. Another great event, our registration's open, as well as sponsorship and exhibit booths. Our annual conference and expo, the one we usually do in February at the Blue Chip, is now in August. That's going to be August 10th. We're going to have 2 full exhibit halls, indoor vehicle displays, breakouts, networking, the award ceremony. Also wanted to let you all know that we recently received confirmation that Senator Braun's going to be joining us. He'll be doing a little fireside chat, if you will, during the lunch hour with Carl and talking about his bipartisan Senate Climate Solutions Caucus. So that's coming up. Also, if you see Carl's monthly column in the Times of Northwest Indiana, and I hope that you do, know that that is also part of our work with NERC for Outreach and Education. This past month was very timely. He talked about the need for energy resilience and how the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack helped shed some light on that issue and the importance of that, and also all the work that we're doing in that capacity. Also Greenfleet Radio, that is another project of the Greenfleet program that airs 3 times every Wednesday on Lakeshore Public Radio. This month we have Rich Moore from ChargePoint, Jason Vandenbrink of Ozinga, Mike Dahlman from Best Equipment Company, Greg Crowley of Crowley Engineering, and Peter Kimball was NERC of our guest this week talking about the ADA transit map. Last but not least, I want to put a little plug in here. We do have a paid internship available this summer through a grant from the U.S. Department of Energy that begins June 14th. Really looking for students studying engineering, environmental science, urban planning, with an emphasis on graduate students, but all applicants, all years, all fields of study will be considered. You can contact us about that. All of this information is available on our website, or know that you can always contact me as well directly, and I would be happy to talk to you more about that. Thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Well, now we don't have any announcements. Those were all the announcements too. So now, does anyone else have any announcements or anything to share with the group? I apologize for the background noise. I think my kids are wrestling upstairs or something. I don't know. But all right. Well, going once, going twice. Oh, looks like Nancy.
Nancy Moldenauer.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm excited to announce that this evening at Northwest Indiana Green Drinks that our very own Mitch Margola will be presenting on creating a biking, hiking, and walking culture. And also he's going to be talking about all of the awesome trails that are already in place in Northwest Indiana and future development. And one of our own Michigan City sustainability commissioners, Jeff Kohler, will be giving us an update on the Singing Sands Trail, which is in Michigan City, Indiana. So I invite all of you to join us for that. The Zoom link has already been posted on the Northwest Indiana Green Drinks page, so it'll be really easy to join us. And if you do need the link sent directly to you, just send me an email to nancyforvision@gmail.com. And thank you all very much for allowing me to make this announcement, because I know we all love Mitch very much, and he's done so much for our communities.
Definitely. Definitely. Thank you. Anyone else? Anything, any announcements? Anything on your minds? All right. Well, we have our next meeting scheduled for September 2nd at 9 a.m. Oh, okay. Okay. We're not sure whether this will be a hybrid or a virtual in-person. We're not sure right now, but we'll let you know. All right. Hearing, if there's nothing, unless there's anything else, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everybody. And thanks again, Joe. That was awesome. Thank you.